Apparently, when you're making monsters, you gotta add springs. Here's your spooky spot on the NECA Toys Frankenstein Head Knocker. Genius crosses the line into madness when Dr. Henry Frankenstein becomes obsessed with creating life out of death. Grave robbing with his hunchbacked assistants, he pieces together the semblance of a man, but what he reanimates is a wretched creature, uncontrollable and ultimately doomed. Get a load of this, it's a monster that moves. The first thing we'll do is we'll grab the tape measure to see how tall the NECA's Frankenstein head knocker actually stands. Then maybe we'll bring in a couple things for comparison's sake. The figure, though, is first going to stand at about 8 inches in height, or Frankenstein's monster stands about 20 centimeters tall. As for some creepy comparisons, first, here's what the head knocker of Frankenstein looks like with the earlier looked at Trick-or-Treat Sam. I don't know if anyone would look at the two and say that they're sized appropriately. I mean, obviously, if you look at Sam, Sam's obviously sitting on a rock, but if Sam was to stand up, Sam would be well off probably past the screen. So they're not probably the best size to one another. I don't think, though, if you're collecting the head knockers, at least for me at least, I don't know if I would be displaying the two together. Sam would be off doing his own thing, and Frankie I would like to have then display with other Universal Monster head knockers, which NECA has done in the past. Speaking, though, of Frankenstein's monster, I couldn't help but obviously bring in the ultimate version that we did get, although I did bring in the black and white, the one that we get for the head knockers full in color. Well, I knew there was a stench in the air. Joining us now is, of course, the paranormal candle. I don't know what messages we'll be getting from the afterlife, but let's hope that they don't interrupt this review. As I did say earlier, NECA did release head knockers of all the Universal monsters. In fact, what we're getting here with Frankenstein is essentially a reissue, but I think there are some changes that they have made. The initial run of head knockers from NECA Toys, I think, consisted of 7 characters, which was Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, Dracula, the creature from the Black Lagoon, Wolfman, Mummy, and the Phantom of the Opera. Those are, though, going for crazy, stupid money online. I think, actually, at the time of doing the record, I just happened to look online and see what the prices were going for. And somebody was selling, and I still think of the listings up there, a full set of 7 for like $1,300. I can't justify that. I could, though, justify some of the reissues that we've gotten. Ones that I at least have seen have been Wolfman, Bride of Frankenstein, Dracula, and, of course, yours truly. The one thing I did say, though, is that I think they have made some changes to them, more specifically in the neck. From what I've seen, at least in the images, the earlier released Frankenstein head knocker had a notably shorter neck. The one thing you can see as drawing probably an eyesore here is the fact that Frankenstein's neck is considerably long. I think most, in fact, of the head knockers we're getting now all seem to have longer necks. I don't know why necessarily. I don't think it has anything really to do with the fact it has to be able to clear the spring, which, of course, this being a bubbled head does have a spring function. But the earlier Frankenstein, I think, had a slightly shorter neck. Maybe they also did that as well to clear the bolts that he has on his neck, which are nicely painted. Has probably already mentioned this in the earlier review of Sam. I'll mention this again, that these are cast in resin and very meticulously hand painted. You can really see there's a lot of work that went behind the scenes to make this guy a reality. On the front here of his display stand, you can see is cast Frankenstein. We're not going to feel the need to add creature. We're not going to even feel the need to add monster. We're just going to stick to the idea that this guy's name is Frankenstein. On the bottom of this, though, you got the Universal Monster logo, and of course you've got NECA down below that as well. Off to the side, I don't know if these would be diodes, poled electro rods, anything you'd like to call these would basically be the thing that gives Frankenstein life. This would have been nice if they had actually colored this a little bit brighter than what they did. I mean, they've only really painted this in almost like a brownish purple. Had they maybe perhaps painted this in a bright blue, so it looks like maybe like the diode or the rod is perhaps maybe lit or illuminated or perhaps pulsating electricity, I think that would be a nice touch. And then we've also got this piece here also as well that's using a translucent clear plastic. Of course, looking up from that, we can see the back of Frankenstein's monster. Not probably the place that you're going to be looking at this, especially if you got this on the shelf, but let's spin this around so we can see this front and center. Head sculpt looks fantastic, though, bearing I feel a good likeness to Karloff. Although this, again, being done in color, I would love to see what they could do this in black and white. And I don't think yet we've gotten black and white versions of the Universal head knockers, but obviously that would be the best thing to do as a, a spin-off from what they're already doing right now. You've got, of course, the red there paint on the side of his face, little staples and stitches and all the things that are keeping his head together. And a very somber look to Frankie. It looks like he's almost looking off to the side. Is he looking at the candle? I'm looking at the candle. Sorry, what? You silly candle. Nicely colored, though, for what it is. It doesn't look like it's just simply using one color of green. There's probably a few little colors and different contrasts that they've added there. So you can see like some lighter greens maybe playing around his area of his nose, some darker greens more around the recessed sections of his eyes. There is one little section right here. You can probably see it for yourself. There's a little bit of white that looks like it's bled down. It already gives what would be his drooping eye even more droopiness by the fact that now I'm drawing my attention to the fact he's got this little, it almost looks like a little whisker. A whisker of white that he has to the side of his eye. Other than that, though, it looks really quite good. The coloring of his hair looks good. I mean, obviously, when we get to the torn and tattered costume that he wears as well, you got the stitches there on his hand. Those are nicely done. You've got even the fingernails, as grimy and disgusting as they may look. And we've got some additional wash of red added in there as well. Like, it's a really nice-looking bobblehead. It's not, though, as heavy as the Sam that we looked at earlier, primarily because, obviously, he's standing, first of all, on his own. And because, of course, the nature of his body, too. He's a little leaner. He's a little taller. He's a tall drink of water. Of course, this was carefully packed when I removed this from the tray. There was, of course, the little bit of plastic that was wrapped around his neck. I already freed that, so he has full freedom to move his head around. Being that this is obviously resin, I'm sure it goes without saying to say this. Just be careful, obviously moving things back and forth. If you are one that likes to have your bobblehead sitting in your dash of your car, I would not probably recommend you maybe using a resin bobblehead, simply just because, again, like if this is moving around in the car, the likelihood of breaking would be very potentially high. I think if anything is going to break on this, it's likely going to be his fingers, because they're the smallest things of resin, and maybe even like the bolts on the side of his neck, so just tread cautiously. All in all, though, a nice looking head knocker of Frankie. Love to have gotten my chance to get the original initial 7 of these, but for what the prices are, what they're being asked for now online, there's no way I'm going to be shelling over $1,300 when really now the reissues are going for around $40 online. And that's just from regular online sites that normally stock and sell NECA head knockers. The ones at least that I've been able to see from some of the sites is a Bride of Frankenstein, a Wolfman, Dracula, and of course Frankenstein we looked at in this review. So at least if I can get the 4, yes, I wouldn't be able to get the Mummy and Phantom of the Opera and Creature from the Black Lagoon, but hey, you never know. NECA may also reissue those down the road as well. Whether it be the first issue or reissue really isn't an issue at all for me. When I'm really collecting things from my own collection space, I really have to look at a budget first and foremost. So there's the option of going $150 to $200 for that first run Frankie, or I could spend $30 to $40 to get the reissue, when really when you're having these on the shelf, no one would be any bit the wiser. The one thing I have noticed, though, is looking at more images online of the head knocker Frankenstein. The first issue, while I did think that the neck was a little shorter, I think the neck is the exact same length. It would make the most sense anyways if NECA's got the mold. Why would they have to retool it when just recasting it would be so much easier and more financially effective? Also, too, the coloring seems to change depending on what images you see. Some of the first run Frankenstein head knockers seem to convey the idea that his skin was a little bit more of a grayish green, when I've seen other images where it looks like it's more of a green. Being that these are hand-painted resin bobbleheads, I mean, obviously some of the colors may change from one Frankie to another. At the end of it, though, I really, again, have to look at this being a $40 head knocker. It's much easier on my budget than spending $150 to $200. Or hey, if you have enough to fork over, drop the $1,300 for the listing of the 7 that's online right now. As though a side note, I did mention earlier I would love to have seen these done in black and white. And apparently, NECA did show in Toy Fair 2012, I believe, black and white releases of those. They got to exist. They got to be circulating around somewhere online. I would love to get my hands on black and white releases of them, providing, of course, they're not going for crazy, stupid money. As a side note, though, if you are the person that's currently listing those 7 head knockers online, I'm not trying to demean the fact that you were selling them for $1,300. I mean, if you think that that's what they're worth, maybe, hey, they might even be worth that. All the power to you if you can actually sell them for $1,300. I don't have the budget for that. If you guys, though, are interested, the good news at least is the reissues of Frankenstein, Dracula, Bride of Frankenstein, as far as I know, Wolfman are the only ones that I've seen online. It doesn't mean that the reissues don't exist for the remaining 3, but those are the only ones I've been able to see, and they're about $30 to $40, a far cry from what they're originally going for. What do you guys think of the head knocker? Let me know down below in the comment section. Have you been collecting any of the Universal monsters? Do you even have Frankenstein and maybe you're even one of the lucky ones that have the initial first waves. Also, if you guys did enjoy this video, do it a solid. Throw it a like. You guys want to stick around for more so? I hope so. Hit that subscribe. Turn on that bell. Of course, the biggest thing is that you're coming back. We may be wrapping up things right now for Frankenstein's monster, but there's going to be a lot more videos coming your way during the month of Spottober. And I'm sure the candle's going to be joining us all that time anyways. As always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.